Hey everyone, it's Alex and welcome to this Marvel Snap new card release review where we're going to be discussing Victoria Hand, the latest card to enter the Spotlight caches in Marvel Snap. Tomorrow, we will be discussing Iron Patriot, but today, it's all about Victoria Hand. Now, first of all, the Spotlight cache is absolutely fantastic. You have Kate Bishop and Grandmaster, both of which are good cards, but Kate Bishop in particular is an absolute must-have to your collection. I think she's very viable in a wide number of decks, including the Victoria Hand decks. But more importantly, there's a critical piece of information you absolutely have to know before you commit any of your hard-earned resources into Victoria Hand this week. And that is that essentially, Second Dinner has confirmed that next week is the intended time for the patch, which is going to improve the card acquisition that we've been talking about over the last several weeks, which is going to increase the number of Pool 3 cards in the Collector's Reserves. Also, it's going to be doubling the amount of Collector's Tokens in the Spotlight Cache Duplicate, from 1,000 to 2,000. The reason why this is relevant for Victoria Hand is because if you are going to be rolling your caches or your keys for the Victoria Hand card, it's best if you wait until Tuesday after the patch. The reason for this is because if you hit that duplicate, that Series 4 or 5 card that you already have, as of right now, you're only going to get 1,000 tokens. However, after the patch and before the new card rollover, you're going to get 2,000. So there's going to be this brief window of time where you're going to be able to get potentially 2,000 tokens instead of 1,000 tokens if you get a duplicate in Victoria Hand's cache, because the patch is going to come first and then the new card rollover is going to happen. It might only be an hour or two, but it will happen next Tuesday. So you have this brief window to potentially double the amount of tokens you get if you hit a duplicate, as long as you don't FOMO in. But with regards to Victoria Hand herself, she's a phenomenal card. I love her. I think she's great. She's doing a lot for the hand generation archetype. She's kind of analogous to Scream. Scream did a ton for the movement-based archetype. And Victoria Hand is doing the exact same thing for hand generation. And the number of decks that she's going to be viable in is going to be very notable. And we have two very different archetypes we're going to be talking about today for like the test decks and the testing we had done. But generally speaking, I came away very impressed with Victoria Hand. I think she's absolutely worth having in your collection. And the thing about her as well is that although I understand that resources are tight, whether they're Spotlight keys or tokens, the thing about Victoria Hand, which is really unique, is that she's going to be irreplaceable in the decks that she's going to be a core component in. Imagine trying to play a Scream move deck without Scream. That's what Victoria Hand is going to be to those Devil Dinosaur hand generation decks. There is no replacement for Victoria Hand. She's a complete archetype defining card and absolutely required in those shells. There's no replacing her. And so there's going to come a time where there's going to be a deck that's doing well in the meta, whether it's not number 1 or it's going to be in the top 10, and it's going to have Victoria Hand in it. You're going to think to yourself, damn it, should have rolled for her. So she definitely gets a pass from me. Power-wise, I think she was putting out tremendous amounts of power. I think that the supporting cast of cards do feel weak. You're playing Maria Hills, you're playing Mirages, you're playing Agent Coulsons, right? Those cards have traditionally not been the greatest performers. Even Devil Dinosaur in the last year has been irrelevant. And so you're playing a lot of cards that quite frankly aren't high performers, and that's kind of what holds it back. Similar to what happened to Scream. The Scream decks were terrible without Scream, and then if you didn't draw Scream, they were still terrible, right? And that's kind of what happens with these lists too. So let's talk about the decks here. I do think that there's a number of different decks worth playing here, and the first is going to be this one here, which is a Devil Dinosaur hand generation deck, and this is the second version. I have a different version I'll show you momentarily. But essentially, this deck does use Iron Patriot, which will be the focus of tomorrow's video, and it tried to focus on generating as much value for Collector, Devil Dinosaur, and Mystique as possible, while also having the secondary win condition of getting a very cheap Mockingbird and buffing pretty much everything else on the board. The thing I loved about this deck, honestly, was Cosmo, because Cosmo I think is going to be mandatory in your Devil Dinosaur decks because he's so vulnerable to pretty much everything. Enchantress, Shang-Chi, Rogue, pretty much everything that wants to counter Devil Dinosaur or counter anything in the game, like Devil Dinosaur just sits there like, yeah, hit me. Cosmo protects it and allows you to play with some degree of confidence Mystique on turn 6 alongside something like a Coulson or a Kate Bishop or whatever, right? A lot of value being generated from those particular cards. What was interesting about Frigga was that you could play something like Victoria Hand into Frigga, then play another Victoria Hand, which made your Sentinels massive. Or conversely, you could win the Iron Patriot location, get that cheap card, which could be like inexpensive or free, especially with Quinjet, play it, and then copy it back to your hand with Frigga and then play it again. That was really cool and it generated a lot of additional value. If you're looking for a somewhat different version of this list, the original one that we were testing was this all-in Devil Dinosaur version 1. And the way this deck worked was that it relied on the idea of getting a very early tempo-based early game, where essentially you had as much value being generated from Maria Hill, your play on 2, and then your obviously your Iron Patriot, Victoria Hand, and etc. But the key thing about this deck that I didn't like was I felt like the Snow Guard felt a little weak. It felt like the Hawk and the Bear weren't carrying their weight, which is a little unfortunate because Snow Guard has not had a place since Loki was significantly altered, right? This is a little bit of a cheaper version of the deck that we were just showcasing. I would strongly suggest replacing Snow Guard with something else, even something like a Collector even. But regardless, an interesting kind of starting point. I do think it's going to take some time to come up with refined versions of these decks because Devil Dinosaur and those types of decks have been so irrelevant for so long. It's going to take some time to get there. A deck that really surprised me, though, was the discard shell that I was experimenting with, because Victoria Hand made these swarms 0/5s. That is crazy. That is an absolute wild stat line that, like, you can then just replicate in your hand ad nauseum. Like, it's crazy how much value you can generate from Morbius, you can generate for Collector, and then the swarms being pumped nonstop. Now, what was interesting as well is, like, I had a thought of cutting Apocalypse because you don't have the Dracula, but what was interesting was that because you're running Corvus Glaive, you could often play all your swarms down and then Scorn and Apocalypse together. It was actually kind of crazy. The other thing worth mentioning here is that this deck might potentially, if a very refined shell of it comes to be, it could be a great place for something like a Bullseye, which will be coming out in future weeks. So I wanted to give it a shot, and honestly, I came away pretty impressed with it. I don't think it's perfect. I still think it needs a little bit of work, but you see, like, the germ of something very good. So I just wanted to kind of bring that up. But generally speaking, right, I do think that most people are going to kind of lean towards the hand generation side. And again, we'll talk more about Iron Patriot itself on the future future video. But generally speaking, when it comes to Victoria Hand, I find myself very impressed. The card definitely hits on all levels. It rises the archetype significantly, or raises, I should say. It definitely feels like an archetype defining card. Its power level is incredible as a 2/3 and +2 for each card that didn't start in your hand. This is a card that has been sorely needed in Marvel Snap for a while. It's straightforward to counter with Enchantress and other pieces, so it doesn't feel OP in that sense. It has lots of counterplay, but it's great. It's a good card, it has lots of synergy, and it's definitely going to raise this archetype forward. Hope you enjoy these gameplay highlights. Do we just immediately send Helicarrier? I don't think we can. Like, as much as I want to send the Helicarrier right now, it's like we don't even have Collector out. You know, what are we doing? We got Morbius and Mobius out. Do I send... nah, we just play this, I think. Damn. Agent Venom. Such a good card. Casual 2/7, by the way. With that Nico Minoru gameplay. Oh, now I feel bad discarding anything. It's too good, man. The only real play here is Calling Wing into the Blade. Did I say Mobius and Mobius or Morbius? Agent Goat, my beloved. Are you talking about Agent Coulson? Did I say Triple M? Well, that's not what I meant. Sorry, I'm a little inebriated today. Okay, could Corvus, but missing or hitting Victoria Hand would be so gross. Do we Corvus here? You always hit Scorn Helicarrier, never Victoria Hand, right? No, can't do that. It has to be Victoria Hand now. Victoria Hand into Corvus Glaive next turn. Let's be realistic. It always hits Victoria. I'm not doing that. If I do that, Victoria Hand gets absolutely dismantled by this Corvus. There's no hope. Now, realistically, that Morbius gives us so much reach. Okay. This is good. Swarms are going to generate lots of value. It almost makes me want to play the Helicarrier, though. Let's see what happens. Ideally, maybe we hit Scorn Swarm, and then we play Helicarrier with all the swarms. Okay, hold on. That's a good hit. These are... Okay, look at that. We are now cooking. Even though Scorn's a 110 right now, realistically. I would usually snap here. Scorn is so close to just being insane. Oh, now we have APOC. So look at these, like, Victoria Hand. Look at these swarms, man. Look at these swarms. They're ridiculous. We're going to flip mid. We have to. Watch this. Helicarrier, Scorn. That's 22 power. Okay? Swarm. They never think we flip mid. There's no... This is so funny. I love this. They never play right. They always play left. Let's go. They just leave. Okay, that was a good retreat on their part. I gotta tell you. Look at that line, though. Helicarrier, Scorn, Swarm. Absolutely crazy line. You'll love to see it. All activated by Victoria Hand. Whether or not Mystique is a villain or a hero is a topic of fierce discussion right now. Unbelievable. I don't know, man. I lean towards Mystique being a villain, for sure. She definitely started as a villain. And where you start is usually where you end up. Let's be honest. Man, we got some actual, like, zoo gameplay here. Okay, it's not a new player. Sometimes when I see zoo gameplay like this, I get a little nervous that, like, you know, we're pumping a new player and I'm being mean to them. That's not the case here, though. Okay, we're just going to do the Helicarrier pump, or do we start playing cards down? Because we could get rid of Sworn here. Scorn, sorry. You know what? No, let's do it. All right, I like the zoo play. Let's see what they got. Bass might be horrible for them. I love that Victoria Hand is in hand. We can Moon Girl Victoria Hand possibly, but we'd have to. This is not going well for us. They're definitely going to play here on the Hawkeye. We're never playing the Scorn. We can let it get pumped. Let's do this. And then we Victoria Hand into Moon Girl. Look at this Groot gameplay, guys. They played a rock? I'm going to do this. Why didn't I play her mid? What am I doing? How about this? In theory, you could play Crossbones mid, but if you Victoria Hand and then you Victoria Hand again, the Victoria Hand buffs Victoria Hand, who then buffs the Swarm, right? That, in theory, is what should happen. I expect them to play a card in the middle. This is like their Gilgamesh or something? Uh-oh. Wait. Shadow King gameplay? Damn, Shadow King almost did it. But you know what the factor was? The X factor? It was the Victoria Hand buffed by Victoria Hand, who then buffed Group by like 4. Look at that. Victoria Hand coming out with the absolutely massive dub. You love to see it. 3-way casserole victory. Yeah, that was the... on the Snapchat, I talked about this exact Sentinel variant. And it came back in the Collector's Vault, which I was kind of like whatever about. Like, I didn't really care about the Collector's Vault. And then when this came back, I was like, I have to get it. Not only is it Jim Lee, but it's actually a really good piece of art. Oh, good thing I have multiple Sentinels here. What would I have ever done without all these Sentinels? Oh, wait, that Sentinel's buffed, actually, which is kind of cool. I can go Sentinel into Quinjet. Give their deck a little pumperoonie here. So I don't even have to play the Sentinel. The other ones are all +5s. Or +2s. Silver Sable Dedge. Man-Thing Dedge. So this is an Ajax deck. Okay. What gets destroyed? My Devil Dinosaur. How can this happen to me? I've made my mistakes. Do I just keep playing Sentinels right now? I think I gotta go Coulson Sentinel. I think I want to keep initiative for this Cosmo gameplay. Okay, Malekith, kind of sensual. Also, Green Goblin. Not the worst. I could gob him. Ooh, got some Malekith gameplay. I think you sauced the gob. This is a 3-8. That's insane. Yeah, I'm gobbing him. Should I have snapped? Probably. Note that the reduction is then taken off. Oh, we got some Ajax gameplay. Now I'm concerned. I got to be honest with you. A little concerned. But not a big concern because we can just go mega pew pew here. We could just throw straight up stats. Malekith here. He goes left. Hawkeye, whatever. If we hit Mystique, it feels bad. This is clearly something he wants to win with, right? Malekith moves Cosmo. This is a tricky game. Let's play it. Okay. We got Kate Bishop there. Malekith moved. Cosmo. And that's just a dub. They never really had a... Oh, wait, no. Ajax into Mystique. Oh, get wrecked. Yep. We got him. Cosmo. You love to see it. New York is one of my least favorite locations. I really do not enjoy New York. I like New York like the city. It's a cool city. It kind of smells like a toilet, to be honest with you. When I was at New York, in New York, I should say, I was very aware of the scent of New York. I don't know if that's a common thing. But sincerely, New York has a scent. My hand is full. Nice. What's my favorite language? Python. We do Python with the kids because it feels like it has a lot of applicability to like just generally getting a job, what the market's like, etc. Also, the nice thing about Python is that it's very beginner friendly. The students have a very fun time learning it. It's just a win-win, honestly. It's an absolute win-win. Kids love it. They have their Victoria hand out. We don't. We're in trouble. Wiccan into Cosmo? What? Okay, Daredevil Dinosaur coming out. Makes sense. Could have changed the order around there. They're able to pump their hand too effectively. This gets +2. I think we just do this. See if we can win. Should be able to outpace Collector. Oh my gosh, by 1. Very close game. Very close game.